because when you look up, I mean, you have all these balloons flying at different angles, right overhead. And so, that to me was one of the things that I thought, this is not just a balloon event. This is really an experience.
Welcome to Event Explorer, the podcast where we share the stories behind the world's most remarkable celebrations. I'm Daniel Roth, your host, an event producer and creative director who loves exploring how these iconic experiences come together. Now today, we're in Albuquerque, New Mexico for one of the most photographed events in the world, the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. Each October, more than 500,000 people gather to watch hundreds of balloons rise with the sun, experience night glows and drone shows, and soak in the citywide celebration. If you're planning to go, the 2025 Fiesta runs October 4th through the 12th. Gates open at 4:30 a.m. and the mass ascension lifts off around 7. And the breakfast burritos are legendary. For nearly 3 decades, today's guest has been one of the Fiesta's best representatives, helping share its story with the world and giving visitors the inside knowledge that makes the experience unforgettable. Before we get to it, please remember, subscribe to Event Explorer on your favorite podcast platform and engage with us on social media at Event Explorer Podcast so we can keep the conversation going. All right, let's head out to the land of enchantment and speak with Tom Garrity. Joining me today is Tom Garrity, founder and president of the Garrity Group. And Tom has been part of the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, the largest ballooning event in the world and one of the most photographed, for nearly 3 decades, shaping how people across the globe see this experience and this incredible celebration. Beyond his PR work, Tom has guided organizations and leaders throughout New Mexico during both triumphs and challenges, and his insights into how the Fiesta has grown into a cultural phenomenon is unmatched. Tom, thank you for being here today. I'm really excited to talk with you about what makes the Balloon Fiesta such an unforgettable experience, and both for those who attend in person and for the millions who follow from afar, and as well those that have a hands-on piece of participating in this. So thank you for being here.
You bet, Daniel. It's great to be on your podcast. I appreciate it.
Great. Well, yeah, this is one of those, as I started Event Explorer, this is one of those kind of visually significant festivals, and one that really is what the kind of U.S. is known for. It's one of these big cultural events that make up the fabric of the United States and what our homegrown cultures are. So you've been with the Balloon Fiesta for about 3 decades. How did you first get involved? Where did this all start off for you?
I feel like I should get my stone tablets out. It's been so long since I've been with Fiesta. I had the opportunity to first cover the event in the news as a reporter and producer. That was back in 1991, and covered the Balloon Fiesta, back when they were in their 20s. And of course, this year is going to be the 53rd event. But it started out as a member of the media. And then when I left the news media, I moved over to work with Visit Albuquerque, which at the time was called the Convention and Visitors Bureau, and really just was directed by the CEO to say, you know what, go talk to the balloon people up north of town, find out what they're up to, because they're onto something there. And he was absolutely correct. And so I had a chance to really get in at the ground level back then with the sponsorship, with the executive team. Just to really help them to tell their story. And it's been a fantastic story to tell, and an honor for me to be a part of too.
So what was it, when you first visited, what were those pieces that really showed you that this is something that needs more attention, and this really is telling such a great story?
Yeah. Part of it is the setting, the setting in Albuquerque is perfect because of a weather phenomenon here called the Albuquerque box. And the Albuquerque box is unique to the area because you have the Sandia Mountains to the east and the Rio Grande, or the river, to the west. And in the morning, what happens is you got this nice drainage wind, southern wind from north to south. And it's nice and cool in the morning, and it takes the balloons in a southerly direction. And then all they need to do is to increase their altitude, and they'll be able to very easily then start floating to the north. And so it's great for pilots because not only do they have a chance to, not stress their chase crews too much, but it's also great for the spectator because when you look up, I mean, you have all these balloons flying at different angles, right overhead. And so, that to me was one of the things that I thought, this is not just a balloon event. This is really an experience. And, so going into 53 years, it's that experience that really brought things to life. Plus, it started out as a radio promotion back in 1972 with an AM radio station here, KOB Radio. And they were just trying to celebrate, a landmark anniversary, their 50th anniversary. And so Dick McKee, Tom Rutherford with the radio station got together with Sid Cutter, a local, very well-known pilot. And they basically said, you know what, let's have this balloon event. And so, they had it. It was in a parking lot of a mall that is still there, Coronado Mall. And we had 13 balloons fly. Why 13? Well, because there was a storm back east that prevented pilots from getting their aircraft to Albuquerque. So it could have been a lot bigger, but you know what? Starting small with 13 hot air balloons and then growing into 1,000 and 2,000 was really quite phenomenal and a dream of Sid Cutter's.
Yeah, so tell me about that. What's the scale like now for people that haven't been there? I mean, 1,000 balloons is just the square footage and the cubic footage of being in the sky alone. This is a lot of organization.
There is a lot of organization that goes into this. Balloon Fiesta had been at 6 different locations around the area in advance of of 2000. And 2000, we were just testing a brand new field, which is a dedicated place where Balloon Fiesta Park is. And I mean, we had sometimes 3 or 4 balloons all sharing one particular launch site, which means we had 3 or 4 different ascensions. That was the largest it ever got. But as someone who covered the event as well as helped to promote the event, you really lose track after about 400 balloons get up into the air. There's just so many. And so, after the 1,000 and 2,000, the event really right-sized to about 500 balloons where it is today. This year, we'll have 543 hot air balloons that are registered. And they launch from the field with a very intricate pattern of communication. Down at the south end of the field, one of the things spectators will notice if they look really hard is something we call South Tower. And that's basically our command control that helps to communicate with the launch directors, also known as zebras, because they're known because they have the black and white stripe. They look like NFL referees. And their calls are not challenged like an NFL referee, I might add. Because they give the thumbs up, 2 thumbs up to a pilot, and a blow of the whistle basically says you are cleared for launch.
So it is both a spectator sport, but it is also a big participation. I imagine, like, to get one balloon in the air isn't a one person job. What draws people to the balloon festival, Balloon Fiesta, as a balloon participant, and then what kind of teams are they bringing?
Well, the pilots definitely, they love the camaraderie. They come from all over the country, all over the world, to fly their balloons, not just in Albuquerque because of the box, but to renew old friendships, folks whom they have not seen, perhaps in 6 months or even a year. So, they're really all, it's that reunion, so to speak. You have some balloon teams that have their crew that, meet them there each year. You have some balloon teams that will come in and we provide them different types of equipment as well as chase crew. And it usually takes about between 5 or 7 chase crew to, help support one hot air balloon. And so, while some of our pilots have established teams, we also have a place on the field where if guests want to get their hands dirty and, participate, we have a place where they can sign up to be part of the chase crew. And that's usually about 3,000 people each year are participating, over the course of the 9 days to just assist and be available as a part of the crew. And a lot of them sign up on site.
How fun. So I mean, what a unique way to experience the event and to really be hands-on. I mean, the visual aspect or the, you know, pardon the pun, uplifting aspect of just being there in this colorful, spectacle is what draws a lot of people. But I think the curiosity gets to them. What's that, how do you, what type of process is there to get involved and to be one of these chase crew? Is just sign up and show up, or is it, what do they go through, training and things like that?
There is some very basic training. There's a lot of forms to fill out, of course.
Sure.
But and then there's a little mini briefing that they receive just in advance. But they're advised to listen to the pilot. The pilot is always in charge, not just of the inflation, but obviously also when a balloon takes flight and launches into the field. Sometimes it's as easy as helping to lay out a balloon or to keep people from walking on the balloon envelope. Other times, you're on the crown rope and you're pulling that out and helping to be a part of that, bringing the balloon to life. But yeah, so it's really an exciting thing, and a lot of people have Albuquerque on their list as a bucket list, and so we'll have folks who come in one and done type stuff as far as chase crew. But they might come back for multiple years just to relive that experience. And then, of course, we have folks who will come in, year out, to provide support to their favorite balloon and balloon pilot.
Yeah, so that's what I found in talking to so many wonderful, event directors and workers, is that these really do become, these tentpole moments in people's lives, and they become something that they can kind of set their watch to, and at least you're going to be in a place that you love, for a certain amount of days every year, and it makes life meaningful and creates these connections, in spaces where we're separated digitally or we're stuck in our work schedules. So this does sound like one of those places where passion and community kind of collide there. You mentioned the current site. So this is a granted location. This is now a park that is kind of dedicated to this. Were you around when that came about? I imagine if so, you were probably pretty involved. And how has the community and the city and the state helped to promote this event?
Well, gosh, I was there. So I was when I started covering Balloon Fiesta, we were on the old site, which is just south of the current site. And that area is now a landing space for hot air balloons, as well as a place for RVs to be a part of. I mean, I look back at those pictures and I'm thinking, how on earth did we all fit there? It was such a small little postage stamp kind of place. But it had unique challenges, which created an opportunity for city leaders, county leaders, state leaders to all pull together, because the land, the 270 acres that compose all of the entirety of Balloon Fiesta Park, is actually owned by many different government entities. Everybody has their main piece, a little piece of the pie, so to speak. It's all managed by the city of Albuquerque. But to say that other government entities aren't involved would not be accurate. One of the things that is very important to balloonists is not just where they land. Not just where they launch, but also where they land. And so, a lot of county government, state government have really stepped up to say, we've got to buy parcels that are not going to be developed where we can land hot air balloons.
You can't have something, you can't move a tree necessarily of a park. You really have to leave some open spaces for this, dedicated.
Yeah.
So the other part of this, we have Albuquerque International Balloon and then the Fiesta part. So I imagine when we were in the parking lot of the mall, we might have had somebody giving away hot dogs or T-shirts. Now this has grown into a real deal festival and event, and it's taking place, like you're saying, over 9 days. Tell me about this experience and kind of what it's grown into from the site and from the guest experience.
From the guest experience, it definitely has improved over the years. I mean, the first year, there were, 13 balloons in a parking lot of Coronado Mall. And over those years, there has been one staple, one type of food that has been consistent. I'm going to start with the food, if you don't mind, Daniel, because it's one of my...
Please.
So, back in the day, people would just show up. In fact, even at the very first one, Ty Young, one of the board members for Balloon Fiesta now, he was at the first Fiesta, but as a toddler and stuff. And so he remembers breakfast burritos, being made and, people just kind of sharing. It was a different environment. And as the event kind of developed over the years, breakfast burritos became kind of the perfect grab and go thing that pilots loved, because they would go into the pilot tent, they'd get 2 hot burritos wrapped in foil, put them in their pockets, use them as hand warmers, and they'd go out and launch their balloons. And when they land, they would have one burrito for themselves and another for their passenger. So the guest experience now, as opposed to back in the day, is you have a park and ride. So we have more ways for people to get to the park in a very efficient and environmentally friendly way. We also have bike valet, which is free. And we have a very, because of the city and the county and different government entities, we have bike paths throughout Albuquerque that people can drive their bikes up. Of course, you have to make sure you have headlamps or bike lamps and pull in. That's all free. Still costs to get into Balloon Fiesta Park. But up and down Main Street, on Balloon Fiesta Park, it's not a state fair. We have a great state fair. It's more of a gathering, if you will. We have 80 different vendors, all selling different types of balloon merchandise. We have official merchandise tents, but we also have about 40 different food vendors, and about 8 of those historically will all sell some kind of their own take on the breakfast burrito. And those are kind of my favorites, next to the coffee ones as well. Because you're getting up early in the morning with all the planning to make this happen. Coffee is pretty much a staple right before you eat the breakfast burrito.
So tell me about the timeline. So what time do the events kick off in the morning? This is because of the airflow and the climate. It's dictating when people are showing up. This isn't 7 p.m. Hit the stage showtime. What's the schedule like when you're visiting?
Yeah, when you're visiting, gates open. The parking lot opens at 4:00, and gates will open pretty close to about 4:30. And there is a whole security process, so people should anticipate that. But what is happening behind the scenes during that time is the public is entering through one part of the park. We have the balloon pilots and balloon crews who are entering through 2 other areas into the park. And so they're getting ready. It's during that time, from 5 until about 6:00. You have everybody's reuniting. They're talking about the days flying. Everybody's curious about the weather. People are setting up pie balls or, helium balloons that they send up into the air to see how the balloons are moving as they ascend. Pilot briefing is at 6:00. And that's introduced by a really fun drone show. So, getting there early, especially on the first day, you'll have plenty to do of walking along Main Street as well as enjoying the drone show. Dawn Patrol will launch at about 6:15. That's usually about 8 to 10 hot air balloons. And they're literally going up, one, for a show, but also to test the air. They want to make sure that, let's see where the balloons go. And so it's all the pilots during pilot briefing have an ear to what's being said and an eye to see how the balloons are flying around that particular day. And then at 7:00 a.m., we have our opening ceremonies. And then about 7:05, 7:10, the mass ascensions start on the weekend mornings. And that is simply a great sight to see. We have 3 different waves that launch. And sometimes they'll launch from the middle of the field. Sometimes on the north end will go first. Sometimes the south end will go first. And it all depends what the weather is and what the balloon meister, a long time, professional for the event. They don't fly until he says they fly.
I love all the jargon, ascension. You speak it so quickly and it rolls off the tongue. Ascension, Balloon Meister, even Dawn Patrol, is its own thing. How cool! I mean, I've talked to now 50 different events or so, and none of them start at 4 a.m. So you have something special there. So one thing you've been doing, to great success is finding those stories over the years that keep an interest in the festival from afar. What, from your perspective, what are some of those stories that have just stood out to you over the years? What you said that a toddler is now on, a toddler first attendee is now on the board of directors for this. What are those that really make, help tell the history and the story of the festival?
Oh
Through
wow!
people.
It's about relationships. It's about family and friendships. I can point to 3 or 4 different families who have multiple generations who are flying balloons. In fact, there's one particular pilot, Dr. McConnell. His wife knits sweaters for all of the family, and he has family who is following in his footsteps and grandchildren as well. And it's fun to have, introduce them and have them tell the story of why they're involved and what makes ballooning personal for them. We have another family that just flies some special shaped balloons, and special shapes is another great narrative because, those seem to be some of the crowd favorites. As far as I don't have a favorite. Don't ask me. I'm not going to tell you what my favorite balloon is. It's kind of like I have 2 wonderful daughters. They're both my favorite daughters. And but the special shaped balloons, they capture the imagination. Think of a child's toy box that opens up and all of the toys kind of float up into the air. Everything from a giant cow to a screwdriver to a car. All these, really unique things just fill the sky. And so those are 3 of the things: the family, the special shapes, the unique things to do on the field. That's what, those are the narratives that I really like to share.
Love it. And as you have been sharing these narratives over the years, just to focus, as this is kind of a podcast for event fans and professionals, and you are, an expert in PR and bringing attention and telling the stories of cultures. What are your thoughts on an event's capability to reflect, a local culture or to bring a spotlight to a place that may not have had it?
Yeah, great question. When we know, based on the media coverage and just by the sheer number of people who come into Balloon Fiesta, which usually ranges between 800,000 spectator visits to 1 million spectator visits over the course of the 9 days, that people come to New Mexico because of Balloon Fiesta, but they are able to sample all the other things to do in the state as a result of visiting Albuquerque. We have a number of guests who stay up in Santa Fe. We have a number of guests who, stay down in the Rio communities south of Albuquerque and just around. And, they use this experience to hub and spoke around the state. And it's only possible because, there's not any one person who's behind it. Yes, we have 543 primary pilots, but behind the scenes, there's a volunteer board of directors, 24 people. We have a full-time staff of 19 folks who are literally invested in this all throughout 365 days. And then planning for next year's event actually started about, I'd say, 4 months ago. So, we have actually probably even longer, 6 months ago, I should say. So it's a long-term planning process. We're already looking at the, 54th event. We have great sponsors, ExxonMobil, Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. We have official coffee sponsors with Pinon Coffee. We have Krispy Kreme Donuts. They have a morning ascension where they just talk about where they are able to put up 13 balloons, a baker's dozen. And those are in static display until the opening ceremony. So you have a lot of community involvement, you have a lot of sponsorship involvement, and you have a lot of support from around the state. So Balloon Fiesta is very much aware of its place in really introducing the culture of New Mexico, and we're thrilled to be in that position.
And you do it beautifully. So when this comes out, we'll just be a week or 2 out from the 2026 liftoff. Tell folks, a little bit about the dates and what they should expect for this year's festival.
Yeah, so for this year's event, it's October 4th through the 12th, 2025. The next year's event will be October 3rd through 11th, 2026. The admission into the park for this year's event is, I usually have that right at the top of my head here. But anyway, it's $15. Children 12 and under are free. And which is always something that's a lot of fun because people love to bring the kids out here and stuff. But yeah, so general admission is $15. Children 12 and under are free. It's all electronic ticketing, so you don't have to worry about fumbling for cash or anything like that. $20 for parking, and when you look at the other events around the country, it's really quite affordable, still a great bargain, and of course free parking for the bike valet. So the overall guest experience, you can learn all about it at balloonfiesta.com. Has all the event information and even hotel information as well.
And as people come in, I would guess they go to sleep about, 6 p.m. But if they do stay up a little bit later, does the city kind of come alive with Balloon Fiesta events and other like local restaurants and hotels throwing events? Are there other things around the city that people should check out?
Oh, most definitely. We have the morning events, and then we have the afternoon sessions as well, which include on 5 days, we have static glows at night. We have parachute teams that fly in. We have additional drone shows. And the balloon glows will feature about 200 hot air balloons just lined up in static display. Those are on both weekend, both first Saturday, first Sunday, and then again starting on Thursday, Friday, and then again Saturday of Balloon Fiesta week. Around the area, lots of exploring. If you like to walk, there's the Bosque, where the Rio Grande flows through. That is going to be in prime fall colors during that time, and so you have the gold of the oaks down there that just kind of light it up. You have a lot of things to explore with regards to Native American culture with the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. You also have a lot of ways to explore the influence of this of the Hispanic culture as well. And there's Old Town, there is Uptown. There is all over town, because there's, Albuquerque and all of New Mexico roll out the red carpet to welcome the visitors from around the country and around the world.
And from a personal perspective, what's that moment you're looking forward to this year, or just being on site? And is it that first bite of that breakfast burrito and that sip of coffee?
That definitely gets me to that point. It would be, watching the first launch, because we all go, we're always weather dependent. And so, balloon can control up and down. It just can't control the sideways, which is determined by the weather. So, that's one of the things that I will breathe a lot easier after the first balloons launched. And you go, okay, great. We're in launch mode now.
Very good. Very good. Well, Tom, I want to thank you so much for joining on Event Explorer today. I mean, your pride and your love of this event and of Albuquerque and New Mexico, as a region really come through in the conversation and talking to you. So it's been really special. Obviously, this is something that is that bucket list. It can't be replicated elsewhere to see the balloons, at sunrise with the New Mexican kind of brushland desert kind of surrounds with the mountains in the background. You're probably eating, green chili breakfast burrito, got a little spice and a pinon coffee that you cannot get the same anywhere else. I'm sorry, you cannot replicate New Mexican cuisine outside of New Mexico. So there are so many boxes to check here for event fans. And it really does sound like, for people that are interested in even the way a unique event takes shape and the way it is staged, this is one to witness because there's the idea of like kind of the aeronautics, like you have to make your own FAA kind of out there with your control tower and your balloon meister. And how interesting is that? And how much detail and time and love go into this. It really is reflected, and it comes through in your discussion today. And then I hope we'll share some video and images to tease people even more. If they haven't made their plans for 2025, I'm hoping they make them for 2026. So Tom, thank you again for joining today.
Thank you, Daniel. It was great to share a little bit of Balloon Fiesta with you.
That was Tom Garrity giving us a look inside the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. If this conversation inspired you to go, here are a few things to remember. Arrive early, before sunrise, and consider using the park and ride shuttles or the free bike valet. Now dress in layers since mornings are chilly and afternoons warm quickly. And make sure to not miss the food, especially the breakfast burritos, which are a tradition for pilots and guests alike. This year's Balloon Fiesta is October 4th through the 12th, and next year it will be October 3rd through the 11th in 2026. Now visit balloonfiesta.com for ticketing, schedules, and travel details. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please follow Event Explorer, leave a review, and share it with a friend who loves travel and events. I'm Daniel Roth, your host, and I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the people and stories behind the world's greatest celebrations. Until then, happy exploring.